That's how a normal arm works. And that's how my broken arm works. Broken 1 year ago tonight, believe it or not. Tonight, September 11th, 1 year ago. 1 year ago in about 2 hours. I was playing tennis. It was a Sunday night. I was playing tennis with one of our fellow members. The club here, just right over here at Willow Pass Community Park, playing tennis. And I thought I did a pretty good job teaching her the game of tennis, but she got a kind of a lucky shot and the ball just cleared the net. And I was running as fast as I could to get that ball before it hit the ground again, and my arm was outstretched, and I don't know what happened. I mean, I can't imagine how it happened, but I fell. I just went a little too far, and I could not recover, and I crashed into that concrete court with my arm outstretched. And what am I doing here? It took 5 seconds to realize that I was on the ground. And then it took 5 minutes to persuade me that I needed to go to emergency in an ambulance. And just to show you how much foresight Law had, while I was on my way to emergency, she went and got another club member, Marion. Brought her back to the park, and Marion drove my car home that night. Thank you very much. I was very considerate. But there I was in emergency, and I was in pain. So I asked the nurse, can I please get some more pain medication? And he said, well, I'll ask the doctor. He came back a few minutes later and said, no, the doctor said you've had enough. Can't have any more. So it was a long night for me. I arrived in emergency about 7:30, and it was a long night. And they told me I needed x-rays. So I finally got them at 2 o'clock in the morning. If you can believe it, Kaiser does x-rays at 2 o'clock in the morning. The next morning, another doctor came in and told me I was going to need an operation. But they didn't have a surgeon available to do this kind of an operation. So what they were going to do is send me to Stonebrook Nursing Home, which is right over here on Concord Boulevard, about a mile or two. So Monday morning, I went to Stonebrook. And believe it or not, they got my pain under control. Finally, after 12, 16 hours, they got my pain under control. And I'm going to tell you why in a second. But I also want to mention that while I was there, from Monday morning until Wednesday morning, Law and Richard, another member, both came and visited me every day. Thank you very much. It's very kind and charitable. Wednesday morning, I went back to Kaiser's emergency hospital in Walnut Creek for my surgery. And I'll just tell you right now, over the first 6 months out of this last year, I've had 3 surgeries. The first one, of course, was to repair the damage. And to do that, they installed 9 screws in a plate. And I'm just going to pass these around. That's a memento I want back. And the second surgery, 4 months later, was necessary because I had gotten an infection. And they took that opportunity to remove the screws in the plate. The third surgery was 2 months after that. We're at 6-month point right now. 2 months after that, and that's because the infection came back. But at the same time, they decided that my bones were not going to heal. So what they did is they cut the top of my arm bone off, and they installed a stainless steel artificial limb down inside my bone with all sorts of antibiotics in it. And that's where I am today. Now, what was most interesting about those surgeries? The most interesting thing about surgery number 1 was the pain I felt immediately after the operation in the recovery room. It was the worst pain I ever felt in my life. It was the kind of pain you think, I can't make it 5 more seconds. And yet it lasted 2 hours. Hua, bless her heart, came and saw me in the recovery room. She was feeling terribly guilty about this entire thing. She visited me, and she said she was incredibly impressed at my Toastmaster skills. Because I was talking to everybody in the recovery room. I was telling him what a lousy surgeon I had. I said they had to call him Dr. Pain. Why doesn't he do anything to my, for my pain? 2 hours. It's amazing how pain can change your personality. That's the most memorable thing about that surgery. The other 2 surgeries, I didn't have any pain. Believe it or not. And I'm going to tell you why about that in a second too. The most memorable thing about them was the period between the surgeries, because they sent me home with an intravenous line going to my heart, called a PICC line, along with liquid antibiotics that I had to give to myself at home. After the second surgery, I had to give myself a milk bottle full of this antibiotic twice a day, 2 hours each time. That lasted for 6 weeks. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, 2 weeks later, the infection came back. And after the third operation, they sent me home, and I had to do the same antibiotic routine as I did the first time. But now they sent a second antibiotic home, and now I was doing another 4 hours a day, 8 hours a day. I've often said I can handle another broken arm, but I'm not so sure I can handle another infection. It's just too much trouble. They want you to be antiseptic, and it is impossible to do at home. You just got to do your best. There's a couple of things I think everybody here, it's important. This is good information. You need to know this, just in case you know somebody who has this kind of accident themselves. Remember when I said I was in the emergency department and they weren't giving me the medication, the pain medication I needed? And yet I went to the nursing home and the pain was taken care of? I am convinced that the nurses at Kaiser's Walnut Creek Emergency Department were stealing half of my pain medication. Because they were giving me 1 tablet of Percocet, a narcotic painkiller, every 4 hours. 1. And then when they took me to the nursing home, I didn't say anything to anybody, and immediately they started giving me 2 of the same tablets every 4 hours. And it took care of my pain. It took care of my pain. So the lesson there is, if you're not getting the pain medication you need, talk to the doctor as opposed to the intermediary, the nurse, who may be stealing. The second point I want to leave you with is, remember the incredible pain I had after the first operation? I happened to mention it to a nurse several weeks later, and she said, yeah, those kind of bone surgeries are the most painful you can have in the world, and that's why they usually offer you a nerve block. Nerve block, what's that? A nerve block is where they go in and they inject something into the part of the body being operated on, and it kills any sensation temporarily. And I didn't have any more pain for the next 2 surgeries. For the first 8 hours after the operation, nothing. I didn't feel nothing. No pain. No problem whatsoever. So, I think everybody can benefit from that information. And what I can say is, just be careful. And Toastmaster.